It's the weekly 30-30 trading list on the ASX. We're reviewing the 30 best momentum companies over the last quarter and those that have had the best improvement in the last week. Gary Glover has been through both lists and pulled out his favourite charts, the lessons that we can learn from, and some insights to share with us. Good morning, Gary. How are you?
Good, Chris. Good.
So going through this week's list, you're starting off with the quarterly leaders. You're showing us an exponential riser here. So what's that on the chart there?
Yes, that's number one there, obviously Pharmos, the PAA. So, I would see kind of a smaller stock they're running there. Nothing too obvious in there, apart from maybe that little consolidation through there on lighter volume and then a bit of a break. They're on big volume there, but pretty difficult one to trade there. I think Brain Chip was number two. It's a bit of a surprise to me, but we did sort of talk about yesterday's leaders there the last couple of weeks. So some of those sort of stocks coming back, and really there for me personally, these stocks that are really underwater there, I wouldn't be looking at them unless I saw a bit of a B wave break there. So I think breaking sort of 25 cents is probably that's I would want to see that B wave break before I look at some of these ones there, and then start to see some volume, which it did start to see some volume actually come in there. So there was some good signs there, and breaking through there as well. So, but the B wave break, that's the one. That's what you got to look at there. I mean, any of these sort of moves there, they're sort of starting points there. So, but to be honest, I guess we've gone 25 to 50 cents, so it's 100% move on the stock. So that is pretty decent. But oftentimes when you do have all the headway, like we look at Brain Chip there, obviously that's a lot of there's a lot of overhead supply there, but that volume's actually pretty decent so far. So
could that be a change of character, Gary?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think breaking that sort of high there through there as well. Let's talk about breaking that level there. That's what I think is a key there. So because sometimes you can jump into these things too early, and then they don't break and stuff. They can congest for a long period of time. People try to buy these. I mean, you look through here, it's just lower high, lower high, lower high. It's just lower high all the way. So you really want to sort of start to see a change of character there. So you want to see those big volume lines there of showing exhaustion for one thing. So basically, everyone throwing the baby out with the bathwater. And then you want to start to see the volume sort of starting to come in, then start to see some grides there. You need to sort of see in your eyes there because these things can just drag on. You don't want to be sitting in there months and months of no activity. You basically want to be in there the shortest amount of time, making the most amount of money. So you want to sort of start to see the things get a bit impulsive, a bit aggressive there. So McLaren talks about impulsive there, sort of first corrective sort of trend. So you really want to be seeing these things sort of moving aggressively there. But yeah, look, I wouldn't have foresaw this game at 50 cents there, much as I did mind the look of it. But yeah, it's obviously that sector's obviously being pretty hot there. A few rare earth names as well. I mean, we talked. This is one actually we did talk about, Chris. Not like the IPO trade there last week. And again, the same principle here is that we're sort of got an IPO here a little bit hot early. They fade, come back. It's a little cup and a handle here. But again, me personally, I wouldn't be touching this until I see this little B wave break here, breaking above that level, which we did here on the 9th of February. And you've had some decent volume there, some good volume on the way back, pull back a lot of volume. We started to see volume starting to come back in again and then starting to push through here. And then we get a breakout on some pretty decent volume as well. So, look, that's a 185 here to, 295. So you can still get some pretty good moves. That's the thing about these IPO sort of trades there. You can, I'm not sure if anyone went out and looked at that IBD, get the IPO trade there sort of video, but you got to give yourself probably trade a bit smaller, bit wider on stops there, but you can get some pretty decent moves by some of these IPOs there. The last couple of years, IPOs haven't done so well, but I've noticed that some of the IPOs on this year's list have done pretty well early. So might be a little bit of a changing of the guard there with some of those things there. Drone Shield there. I guess it's been running a bit hot there. We did talk about this last week. It obviously had a great run there, so it looks a bit long in the tooth up here, but if we look at what already happened there, had the 1 day of selling, and then the whole thing just sort of tightened up, had a nice little bounce again, and then just tightened up here. So the whole thing just really stayed under this sort of congestion there. So, I know it's getting a bit long in the tooth there, but that there wasn't too much, the selling wasn't really getting too aggressive in there. So that was sort of, giving you an inclination there that this can sort of still keep going. FND was sort of one that had that really impulsive corrective. Yeah. Starting to see a little bit more volume come in here now. But it has been a pretty decent one there. STP had that massive VCP. In here, pushed through, tightened up, pushed through, even off all this. Look how, even through here, Chris, that's a really tight, if you've run pretty hot here, and the price action just tightens up here, it struggles to go down. It really shows relative strength there. And once it kicks through there, you saw the volume come in and break out here. So this is, people have a hard time buying 52-week highs. But, this is gone from 120 here to 170. So again, another sort of 40-50% move there in just a matter of days. Just because it's been tight here in shade and nature. So it's sort of, people struggle to sort of buy those here, but that's how they're sort of strongest, sort of trade here. So, Bravura's as well, sort of similar. It's been pretty tight on the way. All the pullbacks have just been, corrective in nature. Even up through here, we had a bit of a breakout. And then we went sideways for 3 or 4 days, and then bang, we're sort of straight up again. So, just, it's sort of, watching sort of how that sort of counter move there is pretty interesting there. One I did see there, ACW, which sort of talked about last week there. This is a different one. So obviously we've started to move up on some good volume there. Did dry up and then push through, which is a good sign. But then what we've seen here is, big selling there, and then the volume starting to dry up there. So that's probably that's what you don't want to see. Is that, once you've had a run there, because almost like the highs come in on the high volume, and the next day's attracted really big selling, and then we've seen multiple days of selling there. So that's a little different from the ones that have run and kept running. So we want to see the lower volume there. I think MTI, this one's still pretty strong here, Chris. I know it's a sort of smaller name here, but you have a little cup and handle in there. VCP tightening up, breaking through. Still sort of seeing, even after this run here, there are 3 or 4 down days in here, no sellings come in, and then all of a sudden we're back up again, and the buyings come straight back in again. So still showing no negativity here, stop showing sort of strength there as well. So I know it's a smaller name, probably too small for me personally, but it's showing a bit of strength there. Quite a few lithium names sort of creeping into the list here, so obviously getting a bit of a bit of a move here, bit of a nice move out some of those names there. Still quite a bit of overhead supply there for some of those. You got to be a little bit careful there. ATG I thought was pretty interesting there. It's a big VCP sort of pattern there. Bit of a cup and handle there in terms of really, whole thing stayed pretty tight here. And then, again, we've got this really strong volume here. You've had a couple of down days and a little bit of volume here, but it's not showing too much weakness yet, Chris. Well, that's still pretty robust. Big volume there. When we see that big volume come in and then the pullbacks are pretty shallow, that's what we want to see there. So, looks quite good. DUB's one I'm keeping a close eye on here, Chris, as well, just because it's been want to change of character. We're obviously starting to break through some highs. We've had some good volume, and then we had a bit of a pullback there. Look at that, second day here.
Not all volume, right?
Yeah,
the opposite.
Still no selling going on here, so we're seeing a bit more volume coming on the up, and then we've had a couple of down days, and again, no selling coming in here, so holding tight here. So that's still pretty constructive to me. So it looks quite good. I think ACE was sort of one that we talked about, that really, beautiful little VCP, nice cup and handle, break through the top. This is a similar pattern here. that's see how it just congested under sort of 90 cents there, nice and tight through and then broke through there. Kind of remind me a little bit of TUA back here. Now we sort of broke through there. They can just keep running these things. They can sort of have a pretty strong, that sort of cup and handle there. It just shows really sort of, again, that relative strength there, pushing through there. So, it does look pretty good. IPX is another name there, still pretty robust. Perfect sort of VCP pattern throughout the year there. And the whole thing's, that first pullback, second pullback shallower, third pullback even shallower, and then stay to break through. A bit of a shakeout under a new high there, but no sort of selling there. Just continue to keep pushing. Even the last couple of days, look at that. We've got vertical here. Got a bit vertical, probably a little bit stretched, but one day no selling, 2 days no selling. The buyers straight back in again. So still not until you sort of see selling coming in here. These are the ones that are going to continue to keep running. So just really important to watch for that. Selling. We know that we'll always get a day of selling, but if you get sort of a second or third day of heavy selling, that's when you know that you maybe the trends are riskier. But you get very, very little selling here after a pretty strong move there, to get stuck in a sort of pause and a move. They're likely to keep pushing high there. Just go through the winners, the biggest winners that they've been highlighting each. There's quarterly momentums there. They all keep sort of showing the same things here.
So that's the quarterly leaders that you're saying showing the same things, pulling out those characteristics. Are there any more quarterly leaders, or that's kind of the ones you've been through for the list?
That's the ones I went through the list there. So, there's some really good VCPs in there. All those stocks are showing relative strength. We just haven't seen too much selling going through a lot of those stocks there. So just all the classic lessons there. So, yes, this is the basis of picking right and sitting tight and staying with it until we see the things that we don't want to see. So oftentimes we're sort of too quick. Me included, probably take my profit there, but hit a bit of a technical zone there. But if we're not seeing signs of sort of selling, we should probably be trying to sort of stay with it. And if we get those little pauses in the trend there, little breathers, probably should be adding to the I think what's Oliver Kell call it? I think he's sort of like he's got his little I think it calls like an EMA crossback. So basically, it has his little wedge pop, then they consolidates back to the 20 or 10-day moving average. Stays nice and tight. He's looking to probably add them on. So, but yes, so things like that. That's probably what we're looking at.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they're the common aspects that you're finding out of the market. They're the things you're focusing on. When you work through the weekly list, so what we call the launch pad, which charts have stood out to you this week?
There's some. What we're looking for is, I think the volume is pretty important for us as well. So when I sort of see some of that, that almost exhaustive type behavior at the low, some strong volume come in on the surge. Obviously, you change your character, and then you're looking for that little pause, tight consolidation, and then your safe entry point. So that's it in a nutshell. That's what we're trying to identify there. So we want to be watching stocks that have had that. So this one is an interesting one here. The APM. There's only been around for a couple of years. APM, but yeah, probably went the wrong way pretty hard here. But all that sort of that's exhaustive type volume down at the low here. And then you sort of start to build here and start to move up here. So it's had a bit of a gap up here now. Done a bit of work here. So this is one just to be on the radar. It's, you're kind of waiting for a bit of a pause here now, just because it's just showing the right characteristics. We've seen a change of character, seen some big volume, seen some volume drive through. We need to sort of watch for that consolidation there. So that's sort of one for me just to put on the watch list. I think IMD is another one here that's actually gapped up here. So it's not really giving us much to trade here, this one, because we've had another big jump up here. But look at that volume. Those 3 days, off the lows here. We definitely saw some volumes. Obviously, someone knew what was going on here. And then we've got some couple of big volume days here. So we're now sort of just, even though we've gone to a new high, we're now looking for a little bit of a paused congestion period. So we're looking for a safe entry mode. So we've got that, pretty heavy volume at the last low. We've got a high, low in place here now. We've got some impulsive type volume. So we've got the right characteristics sort of building in place. We're now sort of waiting for those little congestions stuff there. So those are the sort of stocks we want to be adding those to our watch list and watching them pretty closely there. Number 3 on the list there, sort of Fatfish, was pretty interesting to me just because that's had a pretty cracking run, pretty decent move there. That's had a bit of a pullback. There was a bit of selling there, and it did come back pretty heavy. So it has sort of come back half the gain. So you'd probably like to see it a bit tighter, Chris. You'd probably like to see this maybe in the top 25, top 30% of the move, not come back, half the move or maybe slightly more. I think it had a pretty good pullback, but I did see here at the end, volume did dry up. And then the last sort of 3 or 4 days, we're seeing some pretty big lines come in after this correction here. So, okay, this has got potential there. We're seeing the volume coming in back again for this one. So this is one that we again put it on the list there because that's sort of constructive. Not the strongest there, so obviously it's come back quite a bit more. We like to see stocks that have got more, hold higher in the range, showing relative strength. They're the ones that end up being the biggest winners, but can still be one to sort of keep an eye on there as well. LKE was a small one there. Look, seen some volume come in again. Look, a lot of overhead supply there. Probably not one for me personally, just because it's sort of so far the trend is pretty negative and probably underperforming compared to some others. TLG's had a bit of a move there. Again, a lot of overhead supply here as well. Pretty nasty downtrend. It's going to do it tough to sort of push through there. So again, not the preferred one for me. TBN's a sort of small one there. Some good volume there on that last drive. Pulled back. Some volume coming back again. So that's kind of interesting for me. Again, probably too small personally. LRS has sort of had a pretty impulsive move. Come back again, probably a bit too deep, Chris. But we're waiting to see some sort of change of character. The only thing we're sort of seeing here, we're seeing a bit of volume in there, but we want to see a bit more there for that. So still pretty early there. So not too many sort of stuff sort of setting up in here so far. They're probably just more sort of putting on the watch list there. AMI is sort of a small one again. Has gone to a sort of new high here. So all the pullbacks are getting shallower and shallower. So it is sort of showing some relative strength there, but in probably a small and name. Thought Codan was pretty interesting here, Chris. This is a good lesson here. Sometimes these leaders, they get a bit long in the tooth there. You think they've run, and then they go through a bit of a corrective process there. You can see here that after that sort of high there in December, it's come back sort of like an A, B, C, and or almost a D, E. So it's come back sort of, started to look maybe a little bit vulnerable there. But then the whole thing sort of recovers there and starts to build again. The whole thing sort of tightened up. So looking at this through here, thinking, gee, okay, much as there was a bit of selling in here, it's absorbed that selling. And now look through here, the selling's actually started to dry up, even towards the end here, drying up as well. So it's not really going on the downside. So I just like to see, what we saw there was a little bit of a pop through the build B wave. So all of a sudden we made a first high low in here, saw a bit of volume, and then we're sort of tighten up again. And as soon as we break through here, it's off here. So it's just a good lesson here to sort of, those sort of stocks that have stayed relatively strong, don't have the corrections in and hold up pretty well on trend there, they can still go again. So there's a few sort of floating around there. I think MAD was sort of one that I thought looks interesting as well here. This one has had a pretty strong run here. If you look at this is sort of still sort of going sideways here after a pretty strong move there. There's a little bit of selling in here, but really hasn't attracted that much sort of selling so far. So it's sort of holding tight here. Did break a little bit of a swing high there. So probably just one to keep an eye on there, MAD, just because it has sort of showed some relative strength. AHC is out a small one there, but that's kind of mainly it there. The only thing I sort of saw there was, I think I sort of featured the CMM, which is, we look at that. That's sort of, struggling to go down here. it stays staying pretty tight here. The whole thing's sort of coiling up. So looking for sort of stocks that really haven't shown too much weakness there. I think VUK as well, a bit of a VCP in here, Chris, as well. Whole thing's tightening up. They're just, again, sort of struggling to go down here, staying pretty, So trying to look for those stocks that have held up pretty well, that have been probably, showing sort of strength there, but are holding pretty high in the trend. So those are the ones that are really punching through the top here at the moment. Even sort of something like 360, this has sort of probably underperformed like the NASDAQ and some of the growth stocks there, but we've just sort of seen here, little VCP in here, sort of pull back here, and a second pullback, third pullback. We're just starting to break through a little bit of a B wave here today. So just interesting, we're sort of punching through there. Actually, a little 0, 1, 2, 3 pattern in there as well. So got a few high lows building. So just starting to see a few of them punch sort of through here. So, what we want to really look for is sort of just stocks that are struggling to go down. So they're in that sort of maybe holding up in the range, not showing too much sort of weakness there. And we've got a bit of volume coming in as well there. So that's what we're going to try and look for. Look for the stocks that are showing strength, struggling to go down, corrections getting smaller and smaller, and sort of starting to push through as well. So there's a few names in there. I think on your list there, Chris, there's a few more lithium names in there, but I noticed in your sectors, the lithium sector was one of the strongest last week here. So quite a few of those are actually. I do think this PLS is pretty interesting there, because I saw someone post the short position there. At the moment there, I think that the shorts are up to around about 22%.
That's a potential for a squeeze, isn't it?
Yeah, so it's one of the most heavily shorted stocks on the market, PLS. So at some stage you get to unwind that. So it's like, remember when BHP was $50 and Rio was $120. It's in every portfolio. Every broker's got a buy on it, but everyone's already bought it. So there's no one left to buy it. So when the short positions are at 20%, 22%, everyone's already, who's left to short this thing? So there's so many shorts out there, so big positions already. Some stage you got to unwind that. So I think it's kind of fascinating. Some of these lithium stocks are really, obviously the share price, the lithium price is low here, but some big short positions on some of those stocks here. So some stage you're going to unwind those. So when you get those crowded trades there, you can get a jump there. We just talked about like one of the most crowded trades there 2 or 3 weeks ago, Chris, was the short China trade. Like I think all the hedge funds, I think about 25% of the hedge funds had a short China trade on. So we've got 2,700, but so you've got down to like China here, but when everyone's on the same trade or the same, short there, at some stage you're going to unwind that. So, so it's just, I can see some of those lithium names there, some big shorts out there. So, it's just interesting to sort of see what happens there. I quite like it here because it's sort of got, good washout low, second high low, third. So we've got a 0, 1, 2, 3 pattern here, just a building sort of process there. So something like a Lucas sort of been building again, sort of a few high lows building in there. You're starting to see some bigger volume lines coming through some of these stocks as well. So, there's a bit happening in that lithium space here. I'd probably just keep away from some of the smaller ones that have got a lot of overhead supply, because they're probably going to run into lots of sellers looking to get out, but definitely some interest in that sector there, I think. So, interesting market.
As you're saying, they were one of the leading momentum themes on the reports that you and I share during the week. It's quite interesting because the lithium space is quite a large group on the ASX. There's 70 plus companies that are in that space, probably more since I last counted. And it's really difficult for those large ones to bring up their average to rank really highly. It's okay for a smaller subset if you have 3 or 4 shoot the lights out and the rest flatline. That really helps. But with those larger groups, quite often you'll have a few tanking. But for it to go up really high in the momentum tells us that there's a fair bit of accumulation going in those smaller ones. And as you said, there's a lot of overhead resistance, a lot of overhang, so they might not shoot the lights out. But a thematic with that many constituents doesn't get to the top unless there's sort of a large accumulation happening in some way, shape or form, at least to the extent where it stops the share prices dropping. So that'll be interesting to see how that unfolds, and definitely how PLS moves with all the aspects that you just highlighted. So that'll be really interesting for the weeks ahead.
Yeah, I think it's I guess our job as traders here is your goal is to trade well, not often. So we just want to put on some good trades here and try and sit tight there. We're going to get some wrong here. We'll put maybe the breakdown stuff there, but we're just going to put on good trades, good risk reward ratios there. We don't know which ones are going to be the winners and losers. We know sort of roughly maybe 40% win rate, maybe 60% loss rate, but it's what we do with the winners that how much we win with that 40%, and keeping it tight on the 60% there. So we really never really know. So just focus on protecting what you have. So that's obviously with the risk management and our keeping our stops nice and tight. But our job as traders there is just to trade well, not often, and just to try and take good bets there. It's sort of almost just going to simplify this back to putting on good bets. So basically, putting on good bets is sort of good risk reward. The law of averages will sort of reward us in the end. So we'll have some lean periods, we'll have some buoyant periods. But if we just keep placing good bets over time there, that's the key to sort of good trading there.
They're the insights, I think, to take into the weekend. Good bets, good risk-reward ratios, keeping that tight. Like you said earlier, buy right and sit tight. So with that, we'll take that to the weekend and say thank you very much, Gary Glover from Novus Capital.
Thanks, Chris.